We tend to assume that moving forward means getting somewhere. You press the gas pedal, the tires grip the asphalt, and distance falls behind you. But when you venture into older, undocumented territories, progress can be a highly convincing illusion. Take the Konkan region, specifically the deep jungles of the Ratnagiri district. Right after the monsoon season, the air here becomes incredibly heavy. The humidity wraps around you like a wet blanket, and the mountainous forest canopy blots out whatever is left of the storm skies above. It is the kind of environment that Amit, an IT professional retreating from the grind of Mumbai, is currently trying to navigate. He fights a brutal wave of highway fatigue, keeping his grip tight on the steering wheel while his friend Adi sleeps in the passenger seat. Leaving the concrete grid of a modern city for this dense stretch of jungle strips away the insulated, predictable nature of daily life. When a highly logical person crosses that threshold, they suddenly become subject to an older set of rules. The dashboard clock reads exactly 9 p.m. Inside the cabin, the air conditioning is cranked high, blowing unnaturally cold air against the warm, humid fog pressing against the outside of the windshield. As headlights cut through the dark, they illuminate specific physical markers. First, a rusted, abandoned tea stall on the shoulder, leaning heavily into the dirt. Right next to it stands a massive, sprawling banyan tree, with roots dropping like thick ropes from the canopy. Amit makes a mental note of these structures. To his exhausted mind, they act as proof. Seeing them slide past his window confirms his vehicle is physically advancing toward their destination, a remote village called Guagar. Human spatial awareness requires this linear logic. We know that once we pass a physical object, it stays behind us. We rely completely on that assumption to feel safe, which makes it particularly devastating when the environment decides to stop obeying the math. 15 minutes of driving later, the road takes a slight curve. The headlights wash over a rusted tea stall, leaning into the dirt, sitting perfectly adjacent to a massive, sprawling banyan tree. Amit blinks, gripping the wheel tighter. His immediate instinct is to rationalize the repetition. He attributes it to severe sleep deprivation and the fact that roadside stalls in rural villages are often built with the exact same materials and layout. The digital clock rolls over to 9:15 p.m. At that exact moment, the faint signal of the FM radio station drops out completely, replaced by a harsh, rhythmic static that fills the cabin. Amit presses the accelerator, pushing their speed up to put miles behind them. But half an hour later, at 9:45 p.m., the headlights sweep across the dirt shoulder, illuminating the exact same rusted stall, the exact same banyan tree. The abrupt braking jolts Adi awake. Groggy, he asks if Amit took a wrong turn. Amit shakes his head. He's been staring straight ahead for 45 minutes. There haven't been any intersections. They have somehow arrived at the exact same geographic coordinate, 3 separate times, without ever making a turn. In the folklore of the Konkan coast, this specific phenomenon is attributed to a chakwa. It is a highly localized territorial entity that doesn't put up a physical wall to block your path. Instead, it folds local geography into an impossible closed loop, neutralizing every navigational instinct you have. Desperate for a logical explanation, the two men agree to crawl forward at a walking pace. They intend to scrutinize the roadside foot by foot as they pass the tree to gather empirical proof of where they actually are. As the front bumper aligns with the edge of the banyan canopy, the dense atmosphere collapses. The deafening ambient roar of crickets and cicadas that has been vibrating against the glass drops instantly to a suffocating, absolute silence. Inside the cabin, the electronics begin to fail. Amit glances down to check how long they've been creeping forward, but the dashboard clock is glitching. It is permanently stuck, flashing 9:45 p.m. over and over, regardless of how many seconds pass. Then Amit spots something on the dirt shoulder, just inches from the front tire. Lying in the dust is a pile of crushed cigarette stubs. They are Amit's specific preferred brand. Amit hasn't rolled his window down to smoke since they entered the forest. The presence of those stubs means they haven't been driving miles in a circle. They have somehow been physically occupying this exact patch of dirt for a very long time. The terror of an encounter with a chakwa relies on this exact realization. It dismantles your perception of reality, methodically destroying your trust in the space around you, the passage of time, and your own memories. Right as the car centers itself beneath the heavy, drooping branches of the banyan tree, the engine violently sputters. A second later, it dies completely, instantly killing the headlights and plunging the road into total darkness. The cabin is sealed in a pitch-black vacuum. Amit and Adi sit frozen, holding their breath. In the dead silence, a new sound registers just inches outside the driver's side door, the slow, deliberate crunch of a bare foot pressing into dry leaves. Neither of them dares to turn their head to look out the glass. But in the side mirror, a faint reflection materializes out of the darkness. Two unnaturally tall, pale, unblinking eyes are staring directly back at Amit. According to local accounts, making direct eye contact with a territorial spirit validates its physical presence and anchors its power. When cornered in the dark, staring straight ahead and clinging to willful, terrified ignorance is the only defense mechanism a victim has left. If we look back at the physical evidence left on the road, the pile of crushed cigarettes, the dashboard clock frozen at 9:45, and the engine suddenly cutting out, a completely different sequence of events emerges. Amit and Adi never drove in a 15-minute loop. They never left the banyan tree. They arrived at 9 p.m., the engine died, and they have been parked on the shoulder, chain-smoking and completely paralyzed with fear for the entire 45 minutes. When the sun finally breaks through the canopy the next morning, the vehicle is still sitting exactly where it stopped. It is heavily coated in morning dew and a thick layer of fallen leaves. The doors are perfectly locked from the inside, and both front seats are completely empty. The chakwa doesn't need to force its prey to run in endless circles through the jungle. It simply makes them hallucinate a frantic, desperate escape, while it watches them sit perfectly still in the dark, consuming them exactly where they stopped.